I drive a Mustang Mach-E with no garage, and I'm going to tell you about my winter experience. Now, I don't have a separate mic. I don't know if you can hear the wind or not, but we are going to go ahead and jump in. Now, I did not have it plugged in, which I could do every day. And from some photos that you'll probably see in the post, you'll see that the defroster is on and getting bigger and bigger. There's a fair amount of snow on there right now, actually. I'll probably just have to turn this off when I get in and actually get the snow brush out, and then we will take off. On that note, while I get the snow brush off out, you'll realize that when you have a regular ICE vehicle, that the snow on the hood just naturally melts away. Well, with aerodynamics being so important, I actually have to spend the time with the snow brush making sure all of that comes off because it's below freezing, it's cold, and that never comes off. The snow will not actually melt. There's no engine underneath there to produce heat to melt that away. So that's one of the first things. It's not really a big inconvenience. To be honest, it's a little weird, it's a little different, but it's really not that bad. Kind of the same as the snow on the roof that really doesn't kind of come off as well. There's no heat up there in the ice vehicle either. But yeah, I'll get my snow brush, jump in, and then tell you a bit more from inside. So I'm inside my 2023 Mustang Mach-E. And so the heat was set remote from the app upstairs, cleared away all the snow off the car. Now I'm inside the car. It's toasty warm. The 2023 does not have a heat pump. The refresh 2025 does have a heat pump. I rather enjoy it. I think I'd like to see the difference in between the two in the real world. Without a heat pump, given that I primarily do short around the city trips and drives, I'm still getting about 320, 330 when I filled up to 100% for this weekend. Right, in the summer I've seen that as high as 420 or so. So you're losing 100 kilometers with this 72 kilowatt small battery, or roughly what I'd call about 30 or so percent in distance. But I am switching that for heat. So kilowatts, energy on board going directly to heat. And not only that, I also mentioned that I don't park inside. I don't have a garage. Well, cold soaking the battery isn't that bad, and there's two things you can do to mitigate that. But one of the things that I don't have to worry about cold soaking the battery too much is that I don't drive long distances, and cold doesn't actually damage the battery as much as heat, excessive heat does. So the battery will be cold, and I might not get energy or distance out of that battery per se. But I'm also not too concerned about plugging the car in every day in terms of maximizing range. So I would keep it plugged in overnight before a road trip or something of this sort, because that would preheat the battery. But given that I don't need battery preheating for my short commutes on my daily drive, more often than not, I plug in and charge a few times a week. Once I get down to about 20%, and then I just use the energy on board. I remote start the car for a few minutes because my kids sit in the back and I like to be nice and toasty and warm in here for their trip to school, where there's no heated seats or anything in the back, right? So I just use the kilowatts on board for energy. And you'll see that even doing that, because I do charge at home every day, it's still cheaper than paying gas. It really is. And that's because I replaced my 2017 Impreza with this 23 Mach-E. The Impreza had all-wheel drive, and it was great and fantastic. Fuel economy was in the winters, because I like to play and have some fun in my cars, was up to about 12 or so, 14 in the last year or so. It could be 12 to 14 liters per 100 kilometers. But in the summers it would be about, at best 8, because I ran around the city all the time. And if I would take it on a road trip, it would be down to 6 or 5. So it was great on the highway, but I never took my car on the highway. So now in this car, this is about 6 months in the car. It's my first winter with it. I've had it since May. And so I got in the spring and summer, I got really good efficiency, much better than I had calculated. It was some trips to work and back, and so it would be 11 kilowatts per 100 kilometers. So now when I have the kids in the car and the family in the car, when we're running the heat, I get 33. So on average, that's about 2022 overall. And that being said, when I mentioned my last car, the Impreza that I replaced, the traction control in this rear wheel drive has been fantastic. So I'm going to go out in the snow right now, and I probably won't have all the time to try all the different modes, but I'm going to go ahead and stick this in the winter mode. So let me show you that, and then we hit the road. So some things you should note that will make it, even less of a challenge to travel in an EV. I'm using Android Auto. I'm not using the built-in navigation, which is still active and I do have. But even with Android Auto, if I go ahead and I hit a destination and you plan, you'll notice that it has the ETA and it has the battery percentage included. And this will also put in charger stops along the way if I was going to go on a road trip. So that's built in an Android Auto, and I'm sure with Apple CarPlay if you use that as well. And they've kept it nice and simple on the display in front of the driver, which just has the target information that you need. That doesn't really update or change in the modes per se. The same information is always there, but they might change some animations or graphics, but you can only see that when the car is in motion. As you can see over here where I'm actively changing the car modes, you'll see it here in unbridled, which I will not use. There's a middle mode, engage, and we're gonna go ahead and whisper. And whisper, as you can see, is what you really want to use for slippery conditions like we actually have outside today. Through deep puddles of water compared to the hatchback that I had. The hatchback, much easier to hydroplane even though it had narrow tires on that car. Now for an EV, this Mach-E has what they would consider narrow tires, but it's also heavy, close to 5,000 pounds, 4,500 pounds, which means, and I've put snow tires on the car. What that translates to is really good traction in this car. We can see some headlights coming up along the way. We are going to be coming up to another turn there. Like I mentioned, I do have the rear wheel drive, small battery, and I do have winter tires, new winter tires that I got when I purchased the car, just knowing that we have these sorts of conditions here in Atlantic, Canada. So here we have a typical winter road. I can see the pavement down below. There haven't been plows out for this level of snow that we have. Usually if the plows come out, there'd be salt on the roads and you'd be pretty much down to pavement. So these would be some of the slipperiest conditions. Now this main road has had a lot of traffic, and again, slowing down at that corner, really no signs of slip in this vehicle. This is a pretty tight left coming up here. If I give it a little bit of, and when I gave it some gas, enough gas that would cause trouble there, the traction control came on and it did not allow any over rotation of the car. The car is such a good nanny. And I kept my foot down as I came out trying to accelerate, and of course it would not pick up and accelerate. Like I mentioned, we're keeping this in snow mode. This is what a normal person, this is what I'm doing just going to the store and back today, right? So now that I've gone